and welcome to another episode of Steelfur Speaks with, of course, me, Steelfur, aka Finbar, London-based Flesh and Blood / card game player. Today we are talking about a new game. We're just taking a break from Flesh and Blood to go through an interview / demo game I did with we'll call it a pre-Kickstarter card-based war game, is how he's describing the game. I'll put on the interview that I did with him in a minute, and the first game that we played, so you can hear him talking about the game, him demoing it to me, and see the first game that we played together. The quick summary of what this is for people who are interested: it's a hex-based tabletop game where you essentially, rather than playing with miniatures, you play with cards, and those cards have the stats that you need: your attack, defense, abilities, armor, all of those kind of things. There's no randomness to it, which I found quite fun. Basically you start with points, 200 points worth of cards, and then you and your opponent draft 80 points worth of cards onto the table, with cards being given a specific point value based on whether they're strong, chump units, that kind of thing. So there's no randomness because you draft. You can very much draft from your 200 card stack to pick like a good army that counters the units your opponent is drafting and get a very good strategic thing going there. And then some units, like, say Pegasus, for example, can travel far but attack light, so very good at dealing with archers if you can get around the fact that someone might have a spearman defending. So it kind of plays like an advanced, I wouldn't say an advanced version of chess, but basically like a version of chess where you're trying to take the positions that your opponent's pieces are in by knocking them off the board. You're looking to use classic fantasy elements like healing, tapping, control to stop opponents' units doing stuff and stop them from hurting you. And generally then just playing through it like a strategy game, like you would have seen I'm trying to think, in things like Shadespire or Super Fantasy Brawl or those kind of things, but with cards, which means it's a lot more customizable. You can have a lot more decks without having to print models and miniatures. And he has some very interesting ideas in terms of like the business model, in terms of you have your set kingdoms, which are your factions, and he'll update them every year or so, and which you can do because they're cards. And then you'll be able to still play your same faction, but there'll be like the 2022 update to your faction. So if you want to play heroes at Arengard, you'll get the 2022 update to Arengard, and there'll be some changes, balance changes and things like that. Maybe add some new factions, but not making things irrelevant or leaving them behind, which I feel is quite interesting. And you'll have all of your heroes, so every faction gets a hero, for example, which you put into your deck and starts the game and board and can play certain spells and has mana and things like that. And then there are other units and things like that go with each of the factions, spearmen, archers, all those kind of classic fantasy. Nothing has art yet. I would describe this game as kind of like pre-Kickstarter, I think. So he's worked out what I think is a very, very solid proposition. And we've seen quite a few of these games recently, stuff like this and Genesis, which are starting to bring card games with physicality, direction, and positioning as an element of the game. And I think it's a really interesting third branch that not a lot of games can explore very well. But when a game really does crack that kind of positionality of gameplay, especially with cards, it does make a very accessible format, because you basically are tapping into a market of card gamers who want a bit more strategy, the ability to be more tactically in control of what's going on, less variance because you're not drawing cards, you have your cards all on the table, you have all of your resources and how to use them, and you draft so you can choose what you want, but who don't want to go into the miniatures. I need a £50 book that I can't, and I have to read and memorize those rules. I have to paint an army I can't paint, all of those things. So it's a very accessible format for essentially what is a small warband-like game with a lot more customization, because of course you don't need to buy, paint, prepare miniatures and all those kind of things. You just need to get the cards, which will be available in a not CCG. So, like a set pack, basically. He's going to sell decks for the kingdoms, and the kingdoms will come with a pre-made deck with a few extra cards. And he has some good plans for art and things like that. So don't worry if it looks this way. So he's, if this sounds like your kind of jam, watch the rest of the video. We do go through a whole game. You'll see what I mean in terms of strategy, positioning, using your units correctly. I was playing humans, he was playing orcs, and you'll kind of just get an idea of the things we're talking about in terms of how he's thinking about the strategy for the game and what things are going on there. I imagine, within a year or two, this will go to Kickstarter and you'll be able to buy it and it will come out in nice packages. It just seems like the sort of game that Kickstarter is made for, where you've got a really good proposition and you've got a very good, well-tested game design, and really what you need to do is essentially sit down and get customers, and that's exactly what Kickstarter is good for. There's a really good discussion about this on the latest May the Zoo Be With You podcast, actually, so listen to that if you haven't already, just to give you kind of an idea of what I mean when I say that. So Kickstarter is really good as a marketing tool and for getting the game into the hands of people who don't necessarily go into a game shop or may not find it in the same way that other people do. And by using something like this with Kickstarter, you can guarantee yourself customers before you go into production, which is obviously what Kickstarter is meant for. People are always wary of Kickstarter from an untested company that hasn't, for example, made board games before, but this is what it was originally made for, is to sponsor projects where people have a really good idea and essentially give them the money to sell to you before they actually have a product to sell. And then you're patient and you wait for it. So I'm going to leave you there to dive. Well, I'm recording the intro, so let's dive into the actual gameplay now. And yeah, let me know what you think. It's a bit of a longer video. Both players have 30 minutes on a chess clock, and I thoroughly forgot to use my chess clock, so it does. The games do take about an hour. Though usually I think about a third of that is spent drafting, he said. So, this game went a bit longer because I was learning. So yeah, have a watch. Let me know what you think. Record me learning to play it. I can talk through it later on. It'll take a second to load because I've had to turn off mod threading. Because TTS doesn't like it on my computer anyway.
This game always takes, we recommend people open the game with mod caching turned off, because when I update cards, you have to just reload the images.
I turned it off because
big annoyances.
Flesh and Blood basically was just, I couldn't get half of the images to load at any one time.
Sure.
Okay.
Do you want to be orcs or humans?
I will be humans, please.
Then I'm going to make you blue, because their faction is blue, and I'm OCD about player color matching the faction color.
More than all right.
All right. So, so Legacy's Allure is, I classify as a war game, but it's like 50% war game, 40% card game, 10% board game. It's a long story about my journey and trying to figure out how to categorize this. But anyway, you have this map. This is not a board. This is actually a cloth map.
Okay.
I can show you pictures later. Very lightweight, folds up very nicely. The whole game can be fit inside one of those small BCW 500 count card boxes, like you'd store some Magic cards in.
Yep.
A couple EDH decks or whatever. So all you bring to the game is, let me bring up a full kingdom, even though we're not going to use one for this starter game. The components in the game are it's about 30 D6s, which are used for various tracking of board states. And then the map, and then each person is going to have one of those kingdoms I mentioned, which is about 40 gold. So very low on components, nothing too fancy. And I'll show you real quick what a full kingdom looks like. So what we do is, when we build a kingdom, we paste it in here, click create cards, and then
I see. Yes.
They'll appear here. If I click, okay, that's 205 gold. Should be 200. But anyway, about 40.
So you're using a points-based system that wargamers would be familiar with.
Yep.
You can only use X amount of gold.
So basically, each kingdom is 200 gold, and what you would do is you would come to a tournament with your 200 gold kingdom, and from when you sit down to play with someone, you will draft your 80 gold army from your 200 gold kingdom.
I see.
Similar to Flesh and Blood, you get to come in with more cards than you need, and then right away choose what you
when
don't
you know
want.
What faction you're playing against, you can make decisions. Yeah.
But in this case, you have to limit it to to 80. So you're going to have 200 gold to work with, 80. So you have room for kind of a main theme within your kingdom, maybe a secondary theme, and a little bit of variation. Fills up pretty quickly.
They always do. They always do.
The goal of the game is pretty simple. You're going to, by the way, see a lot of influence from chess in this game. I always say that this game is fundamentally, above all, even though it borrowed from countless games, this game is fundamentally boiled down chess.
Okay.
So if you hate chess, you're probably not going to like this game.
Chess is one of those games I find fascinating, but I never have enough time to sit down and play.
Oh,
and also, I get very bored of the pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I wanted chess and Magic to be, this game. This game was solving a problem in my life. So we might have a similar problem. But in chess, one of my big annoyances is you can draw, you can tie. I find that so anti-thematic, anticlimactic. I hate it. In this game, you cannot, this is a big difference, you cannot draw or tie. Like, victory condition is, we're going to roll to see who goes first, and we can just do that now. Roll. I got a 3. You got a 2. So the higher roll is the first player. There's no choice. You don't get to choose whether you go first or second. I rolled higher, so I go first. I now have the objective of being in control of the central hex by the end of the 7th round.
Okay, so first player has to control the central square.
Under any other situation, you win.
Okay.
If both of our armies just die, we kill one another, there's literally nothing on the board, you're still going to win.
Okay. So the pressure is on you to make it work, basically.
Me invading your territory, I have that capture point.
Okay.
It's not based on killing a king, anything like that, or Summoner Wars. Like, you have to kill their hero.
Yeah.
If you've ever played, have you ever played Summoner Wars?
No, I've never even looked at that one, to be honest.
You heard of it, maybe?
I know that it's made by Played Hat Games, and I have Ashes around here somewhere, so I've seen
that.
That
is like the hyper casual cousin of this game.
Oh no.
I don't really enjoy Summoner Wars, but anyway, that's just a point of reference, but you've never played it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. This is already giving me flashbacks to things like Shadespire, Gloomhaven.
Sure.
BattleTech. I played BattleTech for a while. That was fun.
So I'm going to just show you how the draft would work. We're not going to draft because you're new and you don't know what counters what. And sure, this is a war game. You're going to get general vibes of put tanky stuff on the front line and put squishy stuff.
So you don't pick your 80 gold. You draft it in front of your opponent. Is that?
Well, here's how it works. So this game's open information. So you would have your kingdom, and I would have mine. I'll just, as a kind of a sample, let's say that I'm playing orc. So let's say I have an orc kingdom. They do have faction names, by the way. I'm just calling them orcs and humans right now. Yeah. So you have yours over here. I have mine over here. I'm going first. So what I would do is I would say draft. I draft my units behind the blue line. Let's say I draft that item. Let's say I draft that unit, draft that item, draft that unit, draft that, click red gold count. That's 26 gold. Now, since the clock is running, and since we use a chess clock in this game, I pass it to you. Now you draft 26 gold or more of units on your side, pass it back to me, and we go back and forth until we hit 80. And it takes about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how much time you want to put in the draft, because the more time you put in draft, that's the less time you'll have on the clock to actually play.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah.
Yep. So, nothing's stopping you from literally throwing out all 80 gold and then just saying, do your worst, counter me.
Yeah, but obviously, it's better to have at least a few counter picks that you can plan out.
Sure. Yeah. I usually drop about 30 out. And then anyway, so you would drop things out and etc. And then, we would just go back and forth like that. If you're playing IRL, physical form, since we can't right click on one another's decks and search through them in order to see what the opponent has, like in TTS, what you would typically do is just like have both sides would have their decks kind of just laid out basically, and you would draft from them. And then if you look at the bottom of the board, actually, if you zoom in, you see the little gold tracker.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What you do is you just take a little die, and as you're putting things out, you just keep counting up, and that way you don't have to do like math in your head and
seems sensible.
Calculators. Yeah,
and
it's
I imagine
actually
the gold
really
costs
fast.
The gold costs are fairly straightforward.
Yeah, it's very simple. 80 gold, not been an issue. Like I said, in a typical tournament, we have 30 minutes each on the clock. Usually most people spend 25% to a third of their time drafting, and then you play. So anyway, that's how the draft would work. We're going to jump right into the game, though, using what I call the quick start mode, which is where I would, and this is going to come with each kingdom, I give you a little card, poker-sized card, that just says things like Tempest Mage, put that on, or Adept Tempest Mage, put that on hex.
Just a photo.
E2 or whatever. Yeah. Which, by the way, the guy who made this map didn't put the labels on, but there are labels on the map, just like a chessboard.
Like a chessboard.
E2.
Yeah. So you're going to get basically a starter guide of this is your first game. This is where you put stuff.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll basically sell it as pre-made kingdoms for people who are like, I definitely want to play that hero. Give me that. And then we'll have sealed ones where it's a random kingdom, and then you could play sealed deck tournaments. So let's do this. Go to the bottom right of your screen, like the actual screen, and there should be a button that says Default Armies.
Yep, got you.
So click that and click Tristan Army 1.
Yep. Oh, there we go. All Beautiful.
Right. So this is what it would look like after you used your quick start guide.
Okay. Yeah. So I have Pikeman, Swordsman, Ultra Knight.
Okay.
Ooh.
He's Ultra.
Well,
so this is the heroes right now. Just have the first initial of their name. So you have Tristan, that's your hero. I have Carthul, that's my hero.
Yeah.
Your army is led by Tristan, who is a kind of melee, tanky, get in your face, not afraid to go toe to toe.
Yeah.
With the enemy type hero. I have the quintessential squishy backline spellcaster who drops nukes and barely has any health.
So you've got the goblin, Squig Herder, and I. Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever trope you want to use there.
No, it's fine. I get it. Yeah, I get the
So pretty straightforward. Like I've put my tanky melee units in the front. I've put my squishy units in the back. These cards in the back are reference cards. You can imagine it being printed on your hero. Yeah. But basically, just as you get to customize your army, you also get to customize your hero.
Oh, okay, so that's cool.
It's just like a MOBA. Each hero, a Dota game, because I hate the word MOBA. I think it's insulting to the grandfather and greatest MOBA of all time, Dota.
Yeah, but that game is too hard.
Don't get me started. I'll pretend you didn't say that.
No, I'm sorry. I do think it is too hard, but that's another story.
It is too hard.
I'm a casual, so I can't,
It is way too hard.
Because I played Heroes of Newerth, and they could deny their own creeps to get you not to get any XP, and I'm just there being like, dear God, I can't win this game.
Yeah.
Anyway,
each hero has 4 abilities they can choose from. Some of them have different levels. You can put as many of those levels and abilities in your kingdom as you want, and then when you play, you can be like, this game I think I only want to draft Arrest, or I only want to draft Divine Favor level 1. You don't have to get all your abilities, and everything just comes down to the gold cost.
I just need to get the door. I'll be back 1 second.
Sure. I just mentioned to him that I was playing against you, and he said, I know who he is. He's a good fab player. So apparently you have a reputation.
I'm famous in the UK at the moment because I won 2 Road to Nationals.
Oh, you did win a Road to Nationals.
I made the final of 1 and then won 2 more. So I've been in the final of 3 out of the 5 events we've had.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so people in the UK are currently afraid of me. That's what's happening.
But, of course, not to rain on your parade, but I have had people tell me that basically everyone outside of New Zealand is awful at fab. So
yeah, I've played against all the people from New Zealand. I've beaten plenty of them. It's not true.
Nice.
They need to, people need to stop idolizing certain people, because it's not the New Zealand players who are going to win Worlds. It's going to be the Malaysian guys. They play non-stop, and they're crazy, and they're playing in 10 online events a week, and yeah.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Okay, where were we? You were explaining that you can put as many of these spells in your deck as you want.
Basically, everything has a gold cost. You've probably seen it in the top right.
Yeah.
So that's just part of your gold cost. There's no ad hoc restrictions, as I like to call it, on what you can have in a army. You just need to have your hero, which doesn't have a gold cost. You might have noticed. You just place it out. Other than that, you can have any number of anything. Like, there's no 4 of rule. Like, if you wanted to do 5 Ultra Knights, you could just have your hero and 5 Ultra Knights.
Yeah, but that would be very knight heavy. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But that's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, that was intentionally designed that way. I don't like ad hoc rules in games. You know, so the only limitation there is regarding cards is, so you can't do a superhero. If you look on the items, which items are not faction specific, you can put any item on any hero.
Okay.
If you look in the middle, you see over at the side, there's a little number, a 1 or a 2. That's the slot requirement. Every hero has 3 slots. So 2 plus 1, I've used up all 3 slots. That's just like in a MOBA, you only have 6 inventory slots, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've only used on 1 of my slots, and then I just decided to devote the rest of my gold to spells and units.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, so action loop is super simple. Basically, like in chess, alternating activations. Since I'm going first, actually, I'm going to click begin battle phase.
Okay.
And that, in real life, we would use blue dice to represent mana, but the dice gets thrown around in TTS, so that's why we have these little built-in card counters for poison, burn, damage, mana.
Okay.
That's all those are. So the 4 mana they got applied, that's just the same as the number that's in the bottom right. That's the unit's starting mana pool.
Absolutely.
And these dice represent shield, so that came from Divine Favor at the start of the battle. Tristan gets shield 1. That's just like a temporary extra health. You won't regen up to that amount. It's just an extra
when it's
blocker on top. And then we have 1 out in the middle. Whichever card lands on the middle first gets a free shield. So that's a little bit of an impetus for the first player, because there is a tiny disadvantage to going first in the game. But let's take a look then at what each unit does. So I mentioned alternating activations. Basically, since it's my turn, I'm going to activate a unit, do something with it, then you'll do something with one of yours, back and forth. And unlike in chess, after you use a unit, you exhaust it.
Okay. So it is 1 use per round. Normal stuff.
So what will happen is we'll go back and forth. Eventually, everything will be exhausted, and then we'll click end round, and everything refreshes, and you start over.
Okay, cool. I assume movement is the movement number.
Yeah. So very simple. We can look at the numbers. Let's start with the knight over here. This is pretty vanilla. Okay. So you have your gold cost on the top right. Yeah. You have your. We'll do the text box last. At the bottom, starting in the left, you have your power, just like in Magic. This is both attack and retaliation. That's how much damage it's always going to deal in combat. Next number is range. Not ranged damage, just range.
Yeah, that's fine.
This is a melee unit. It has no range, so it's a value of N. In order to attack, it has to be adjacent to the enemy and have at least 1 movement point remaining. I'll explain why that is in a moment. Then movement, as you correctly noticed, and unlike in chess, you can move anywhere within the movement range. Like I could move back 3 to the side 3. You can't move through other units by default unless they have halving, which is a keyword.
Okay.
And then you have your health. Obviously, if it gets to 0, you will die. Health does not regenerate at the end of the turn. It persists, and we'll just use in real life, you would use dice, or in this mod, we'll use the counters to indicate damage. And then mana pool. This has no mana pool, so value of N. I use N for null because I'm a programmer, and that's technically correct. and nobody can change my mind.
I mean, people may not read it that way. Dashes are usually common, but whatever works for you.
I don't say, look, for range, I don't say 0 because 0 can be plus or minus, and I don't ever want this to be plus or minus.
That's why people use a lot of dashes, or they just cross it out. You could cross out the symbol. But anyway, I'm not going to critique that.
Sure. I'd have to just get angry and defy you like everyone else. No, a lot of people don't mind. Anyway, so we're going to go back and forth, taking a turn, exhaust, everything will be exhausted. And basically we're going to go through up to 7 rounds. Now, people can and will concede, obviously, before the end of the 7th round sometimes. Let's do the text box in the middle. Charging, armor 1. You might be thinking, oh gosh, more keywords. Why keywords? And you don't know what they mean. Well, the nice thing about this game, since there's no shuffling, we can just put the definitions on the back. So if you hit Alt-Shift and do a peek on the back.
Oh, that's cool.
You can just... We have the keyword definitions, and we have errata. Any errata we need to include, we put on the back there. So it's like the rule book is on the back of the cards, and once you know the basic loop of the game,
that's handy.
You really don't have to reference the rules much. This game is very, very quick to learn and start playing as a result.
Charging was kind of what I thought it was anyway, which is good.
Yep, so there's 3 types of actions in the game. The first one is just moving. So like if I move the grunt out 2, that's a movement. Or if I am adjacent to another enemy unit, I can attack it. And this is where you have to put on your chess hat. Whenever I attack, I'm trying to capture that hex, just like in chess. So what this means is, let's say that this swordsman is already at 1 health. This deals 3 damage. If I attack this, think First Strike from Magic. I just kill it outright. It's dead. There's no retaliation. But if this didn't have any damage on it, I attack. I deal 3 damage to this. They're fighting in here. The swordsman gets to retaliate back with its 3. And the grunt didn't kill it, so it gets pushed back to its last hex and now is exhausted. So that's how that would end.
You can't move and attack on the same turn.
Unless you have charging.
Unless you charge,
So that's why, like, normally, let's say the knight did not have charging. Could I attack the grunt? No, I could not. I would have to just move up next to it, and the next round I could attack it. But since I have charging and I have 3 movement range, remember, I'm trying to take over the enemy hex. So 1, 2, yes, that's within 3. So you could just charge it outright and kill it, and it would end up like that.
It will include the hex you're targeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And then ranged attacking is very simple. Let's take a look at this guy, Elite Longbow Archer. He deals 2 damage within 3 range. Is my grunt within 3 range? 1, 2, 3. Yes, so if you wanted to attack, all you do is exhaust it, put 2 damage on here. Since it's a ranged unit, there's no retaliation.
Okay, that makes sense.
And also, whenever they kill something, they don't move into that hex by default. So, disadvantage of being ranged, or sometimes an advantage, because sometimes killing something puts you out of position. The last thing is abilities. So again, only 3 actions you can do this game are move, attack, and ability. Here's an example of abilities. So this Tempest Mage has 4 abilities, actually. It has 2 passive abilities, Allied Pathing and Imbued, which you can see the definition of on the back.
Okay, it doesn't have pathing on the back, but... Hello?
Yep. And then it has 2...
So it doesn't have an explanation for pathing on the back.
Oh, then that's my fault that I didn't put it there.
That's all right.
Allied pathing just means it can move through allied units.
Okay, cool. That's fine. That's fine.
Here I am. Check out how well designed this game is.
Everything gets missed sometimes.
It's because we actually just buffed it. It previously didn't have allied pathing, and then I forgot to put it on.
Okay, cool. So it's got Lightning Bolt, Thunderclap. Okay.
The active abilities are Lightning and Bolt, Thunderclap. An active ability is always the name of the ability, followed by hyphen, followed by the mana cost if there is one. So 1M just means that's going to cost 1 mana to use, and then what it does. So deal target 2 damage to target unit within 2 range. Speaking of damage, if an ability ever has a mana cost and deals damage, by default, it's going to deal magic damage.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, pretty much without exception in the game, whenever damage is dealt, it's physical damage. So a regular attack is always physical damage unless specified otherwise. Again, this is imbued, so it says on the back this unit deals its combat damage as magical damage. And that's relevant for things like this, armor. Knight has armor 1, and if you look in the back, it says this unit takes 1 less damage from sources of physical damage.
Yeah, but obviously Arcane wouldn't do that. Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's say that you wanted to use the Tempest Mage's Thunderclap ability to exhaust a unit within 2 range.
Yeah.
You would simply tick that down, exhaust it. This is within 2 range. Now it's exhausted.
Yeah. And I imagine it's 4 mana per game, not 4 mana per round or anything like that.
Correct. Yep. And there's no way to regenerate mana by default. So mana is a precious resource.
Yeah.
Go out and just blow it all in the first 2 rounds, then might be a great idea, might be a terrible idea. Just depends on your strategy.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's everything. So I can go first, and I'm gonna start off by putting. Oh, we can also turn on the chess clock, which you don't have to worry about time. I just have started doing it even with new players so we can know whose turn it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to put the Crag Behemoth out here. I get the shield, and then I'm going to click on it, pass the turn to you. And since it's blue, you know, your turn.
The Steadfast cannot be charged. Okay, good. That's one thing I did need to know. Okay. Health as well. That's interesting.
So you have the Tactician, which can buff your ranged units, which are going to be able to whittle that down.
I was thinking about that.
The Ultra Knight can still charge it when it's low. Once you have it down to 5 health or lower, you can still charge and kill it outright. And then that guy can exhaust him, which is really awesome because that's a 4 gold unit. So you'd be using a 4 gold unit to exhaust a 15 gold unit. That's a great trade. And then also don't forget that Tristan can arrest the Crag Behemoth, which means the Crag Behemoth can't attack or retaliate. So,
but it won't be able to do that this round anyway. So let's have a think.
You can still retaliate when exhausted.
Okay.
So if you were to charge this right now, you'd deal 5, but you would still take
6.
5 back when factoring in the armor from the Ultra Knight.
Yeah. Interesting. And the priest can heal, okay.
Oh, actually.
The real question is how much to spend to remove this. I mean, this is the big threat.
You actually have another card.
Do I?
I forgot to add it in. It's called Shield Bash. So there you go. I changed the name and then didn't update the mod.
Resource target adjacent enemy unit and deal 1 physical damage to it. Okay, so he could get in there and then play this.
Combinable is like charging for abilities. It means you can move and use that ability in a single action. So you can rush up, boom.
Yeah, I think I want to see what you want to do. So I'm going to exhaust this guy. Not flip, exhaust, and give my archer plus 2 range.
So we'll use this little token. I'm going to right click on it. Right, +1 power. So if you mouse over it now, it should say +1 power. And
range.
Physical,
I'm giving it +1.
Oh, you're giving it range?
Yeah.
Okay, because you are within range of that.
I thought it was range 3. Oh, I am in range. Okay, cool. I'll get 1 power then. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. All right. So that would be your turn. So now it goes back to me, and I'm glad you did that. Classic rookie mistake. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, whatever. Like
that's actually exactly what you should do. So one thing I tell people so they don't overthink the first 3 turns, few turns, because this is when new players have analysis paralysis, is I usually say, like, think of some of your units like your swordsmen as pawns.
Yeah.
And just do something with your pawns first and then do more complicated things. So that's why I'm just moving out my grunt here and I'm going to see how you react. So your turn.
Yeah. Let's have a quick look. Lying. Damage return 3. Cool. Let's just take this.
All right.
And then, sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, you can eat exhaust. All right, that was interesting. That was bold.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have all night to play this game either, so I'm perfectly happy to just
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There
See
you go.
how things
I'll move
work.
my grunt out.
Let's put what's the damage on this? 2 to 2. 2 to 3.
This deals 1 less to melee units, so it would actually only deal 1
so
to
we're
that.
going to move that.
All right. I'm going to move my Skorg Sorcerer up here. Use the second ability, Enrage. Target enemy unit within 3 range attacks a unit you control if able.
Okay.
So I'm going to force your knight to attack my Razormane Manticore. So it's going to come in, charge.
It's fine. Someone was knocking on the door. I think they were just looking for the bathroom, though. It's fine.
Nice.
So you're
an interesting
forcing...
neighborhood, considering it's like 1 a.m., isn't it?
No. It's my bedroom door. My sister.
Okay.
My sister has.
Like,
my sister has friends over, so they were obviously just
getting all sorts of visitors late at night.
No. So I live with my sister and my brother, and she's just lost
Sure.
the keys. Yeah.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
So you're forcing my knight, which is
to attack this.
Range, to attack this. Okay.
So this has physical damage return 4, meaning if up to 4 damage gets reflected back. So this dealt 3. 3 will get reflected back, but the armor will reduce it by 1. So you take 2 just from hitting my Razormane Manticore. Then my Razormane Manticore, since it's not dead, is going to get to retaliate for 3, reduced by 1 for the armor. So you now have only 1 health remaining. And
surely it would be 3 and then 2, so I would be dead?
No, because both the physical damage return and the retaliation are affected by armor.
Yeah, but
so it's reducing both.
Return 4 and then damage 2.
No, that means up to 4 damage can be returned.
Oh, okay, so it's not returning 4. I dealt 3.
It scales on the basis of how much power they have. And
so I take just 4 damage. Yeah.
So your turn. You do have a healer, just so you know.
Yeah, that's 4 range, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep. So you could. And as combinable if you had to get closer, but you are blocked in. But yeah, you should just be able to take it down 1 and heal it 2 if you want.
No, I don't know about that.
I would recommend you do it because I have Chain Lightning, which I can use to do a huge amount of damage.
What's that going to do? 3, 2, 1. Oh, because they're all next to each other. And that will kill... But you have to start it...
Okay, if I started over here, I could deal 3, kill it, 2, not kill that, and then 1 and kill it. So if you healed this, I at least couldn't kill both of those.
Yeah, but I don't know. That doesn't seem to be what I want to do. I think my plan is actually going to be...
Kill that.
Yeah.
Okay. It's an interesting play. I'm going to... move that up there now that the Pegasus is exhausted. So this is good for charging things in the backline because it can one-shot your squishy casters.
Oh, fair. Yes.
So I'm going to put that there. It's your turn.
And it has 2 health. That's not in range of the lightning bolt. That's okay. And it can charge around units, can't it? Yeah. Fine. So what's the movement on this? 3? Okay. So let's actually move the Tempest Mage over here.
Okay. Yep, that was good play because that has to be in position for next round. If I fly in and kill it, you'll just kill my wyvern. Your hero does have +1 power, by the way, because of the short sword. So
yeah, so he's got 4.
And notice. So yeah, that's. I'm going to use the Troll Doctor now to heal my Razormane Manticore. It's your turn.
Sure, and at this point, I probably will heal up my damage unit for 2.
Okay. Just moving the Hellbear up. It has charging, but only 2 movement, so I'm not in range to charge the Tempest Mage.
When it deals combat damage, each X burn, 8 X mana shoot damage, then loses 1 burn counter. Okay. Single buff, debuff, combinable. Okay. So that's exhausted?
Yep, that's exhausted.
Okay, good. How much health does that have? 6. Okay. Quite a beefy unit then. Actually eat my Tempest Mage next turn. Magic resistant. Yeah. Seems good. Let's get that swordsman up to here, I think.
Okay. Gonna move that up there.
Just thinking, what is the best play here? 3, 2. Let's move this swordsman over here.
Moving that right there.
Okay.
Actually, no, I can't do that because if I kill that at the start of next turn, you can charge and kill that. I can't do that. Oh, by the way, we haven't really been using the chess clock, but the rule in this game is until you actually pass the clock, you're allowed to like confirm a move or undo anything.
Yeah, I
it's
figured.
once you actually pass the clock that things are locked in. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I'm not just being obnoxious.
Makes perfect sense.
I'm gonna go ahead and do this now. That's Chain Lightning is 2. I'm gonna deal 3 to that, 2 to that, and 1 to that. So that will kill the pikeman. And that will be my turn. There. Now it's your turn.
Okay, so you killed my pikeman. Sorry, just remind me of. Yeah. My pikeman was here. Okay.
Yep. And then 2 and 1.
Oh, do you play Chain Lightning?
Yeah, I played Chain Lightning.
So it doesn't go away? It just costs mana.
This is just think of these as reference cards, as though these abilities are all printed on the card.
Oh,
just like
okay.
Your priest abilities are printed on the card.
Sure, so I can actually do either of these abilities 3 times per game.
It's the mana cost is in the middle, and as long as you have the mana cost, you can do them.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's important to know. So they're not one and done. Okay, which means I definitely want to get Tristan in range. Which is the bigger threat? Is it the Hellbear? It probably is the Hellbear. I'm going to shoot the Hellbear for 3.
Okay. My
Then...
turn. So now it's my turn. I'm going to move my Skorkellian over here just to act as a blocker. So you can't kill my hero. Now it's your... Oh, exhaust that. Now it's your turn.
I guess let's move Tristan up to here, where he was always going to go.
Yep. Okay, exhaust him. And... So I'm actually going to skip. And skipping, what skipping does is you basically just don't take an action, but you still consume an action point. And that's relevant because priority is determined in the next round based on whoever last performed an action.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So you can skip a bunch of your actions to guarantee that you go middle. So you took the last action right now. So if I moved this right here, now I would have taken the last action and you would go first.
Okay.
But if I just skip with this, you took the last action and I get to go first. So it's really a question of whether I want to waste those actions.
Okay, so I could have skipped and then you would have had to choose.
But here's the thing, I'm actually going to do it.
Okay.
Because I actually really want... Your archer is so important to you winning this game that I want to have that chance of killing it. So now everything's exhausted. You can click end round over here.
Yep. Cool.
And you notice this little +1 power token that only lasted 1 round. It got automatically moved off the board.
Yeah.
Anything that regens, like for example, you have Felguard's Battlesuit, which has health regen 1. If you had any damage, it would have automatically updated and removed the damage.
Yeah.
So you have that precious first action on the second round. Better use it well.
Yeah, there's a lot of good choices. There are a lot of good choices right now.
You might want to just exhaust the crack behemoth or disarm it.
Yeah, both of those are kind of first on my list, but it's a bit of a problem because then, of course, the archer is going to die.
Yeah, that's true. You can also use this to just exhaust one of these, which is really powerful. Yeah, you could just kill that outright, though. There's a lot of things, though. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'm going to kill this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, since you did that, I'm going to get in a hit on Tristan before I'm disarmed. So I'm going to attack Tristan. You have your Battlesuit, which has armor. So one of the damage is going to get... So I'm dealing 6 damage. 1 will get absorbed by the armor. 1 will get absorbed by the shield. So I'll actually only deal 4 damage. But now that puts me in... Can now kill that unless you heal this or something.
Yeah, I figured. And this can fly and charge, so I assume it can go over everything.
Yep. So yeah, I think you have to heal Tristan if you want to keep him alive.
So there's 2. Yeah, there's 2 targets.
Oh, and Tristan did retaliate, by the way. So the shield is gone and 3 damage is on.
Brilliant. So what we're going to do is then use Arrest on the Wyvern and then Shield Bash the Hellbeast.
So that +1 action, you still only get to do that on your turn, then it goes to me and you're just not exhausted, is all that means.
Oh!
You can still only do one of those abilities on a turn.
I just assumed it meant that I had an action, another action.
Yeah, there's no action chaining. It just means you won't be exhausted after using that action.
Okay, well these both hit for 3, so then I'm definitely going to heal him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to...
So, heal that. That was a good choice. I'm going to use my Crag Wyvern, put an end to this nonsense, fly in and kill your sad little priest.
Oh yeah, the full range. That's a nuisance. Okay. Well, that's the purpose
You're
of flying beasts, isn't it? Reason to keep your Pegasus. Then again, Pegasus isn't as good. Hmm. Okay, so the main threat to me at the moment is the Hellboar. So
at this point, he only has 3 health, so you can actually just
yeah, that was kind of
attack
what I
it.
was
Actually, you
thinking.
can attack with either of those and kill it outright. You don't have to use Tristan.
Yeah, this is my logic, just to get that off the table so that my Tempest Mage is fine.
I probably should have healed it instead of.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
let's use the Swordsman, because that's a good position for that to be in.
I will say, just in case I had attacked something, the burn, it would look like this. I deal 3, and then you'd have 2 burn counters. And then
take
at the
2
start of the
damage
next round, that converts to damage unless you debuff it with your priest.
Yeah, absolutely. I figured.
Yeah. What I should have done is healed, because there wasn't any really any rush for me to kill the priest.
No, it had already used its ability.
So yeah.
I mean, I might have, if I had spotted it, I could have arrested it, but yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna use my Skorg Hellion, who hits hard. He only has the 1 health. That's the unique thing. But I'm gonna just whack him. He does enough damage to even go through the armor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 3 health, 2 health. I'm actually going to return. I'm going to take it with my Pegasus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tempted to do another Chain Lightning. Problem is, if I do another Chain Lightning, I only have 1 mana left. Going back to what I said about burning yourself out in 2 rounds.
Yeah.
So, and if I don't do something with this, you can charge and kill him. So what I'm going to do is Lightning Bolt can be combined, but I get -1 movement if combined, so I can't move a full 2 and then Lightning Bolt, but I can move 1.
Yeah.
Also, my Rod of Asmodet gives me +1 cast range, so that means all these numbers on here are increased by 1 for the cast range.
Figured.
So I'm going to move him right here, tick that down 1, and 1, 2, deal 2 damage to that, and now I should be able to kill it with my grunt unless you exhaust it. So that is my turn.
Interesting. And not what I wanted to do on my turn. Then again, it is just a swordsman, so actually I'm going to take your Razormane Manticore. I've put them on top of each other again.
Forget how much damage. The counters get lost whenever cards get stacked.
I had 2.
2, okay.
I'm just assuming I don't take the physical damage return if I kill it.
You do. The physical damage return is just, it's like you're punching
so
barbed wire.
Do I take the difference because he had 2 health missing, or do I take the whole
It's
thing?
just based on that physical damage return 4. So you dealt me 5 damage, it gets reduced by 1. So you do take all 4, so you have 1 health left on that.
Okay, cool.
Which is fine, because this can attack it, but the armor will reduce it to 0, so I can't even deal damage.
It did a good job, so that's fine.
Yeah, it did work.
Yeah.
Don't forget the disarm prevents retaliation. So what you can do is disarm the Crag Behemoth.
Yeah, I know.
And then attack it, and there'll be no retaliation because you'll have that +1 action if you don't combine it.
Yeah.
I can remove debuffs though, like disarm with my Troll Doctor, but I'm actually not gonna. Am I gonna do that?
I mean, it will take your turn, and then
I'm gonna do this now before you exhaust it with your Tempest Mage. Of course, now you can one-shot my Grunt with Tristan, but so be it.
I mean, yes.
That would mean my Crag isn't taking as much damage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine taking the grunt, I think.
Alright, you're just going to kill that outright.
Yeah, I think so.
Alright, well, since you... So, my Tempest Mage or Troll Doctor is not in range to heal the Crag Wyvern, which is kind of sad. I'm going to move this right here.
Mm-hmm.
Your turn.
I'll just shoot it.
Okay. I wanted that to happen.
I figured.
These two together could have killed that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well.
But, yeah, all right, so my turn, and I have one action remaining. So you notice action economy is a big part of this game.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot more actions than me from here on out.
Yeah.
Which might be a disadvantage in some contexts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use my last action to move this up here. And, oops,
Heal one.
wrong direction. Heal that for 2. I'm actually going to put it... No, I am going to put it right there, so I'm in range to attack something if I need. It is your turn. If you skipped with everything, you would go first, just so you know.
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to move my swordsman to here.
Okay.
And then have pathing combinable within 2 range. Okay. This has 3 range. Fine. I'm going to move this to here. And then I'm going to ping the Wyvern for 2.
So one thing you could do instead of using that is just give this +1 power with a tactician, and then you'll right-click it, you'll do the same amount of damage, and you won't use up a mana.
Oh, because it's combinable. Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'll do that.
So, alright, so cool. You can click end round.
Sure.
And this is looking dicey, so I got to do something about this Ultra Knight right now.
No.
Or I'm going to get... See, so I could I could use my Chain Lightning, kill both these, but then Carthul's basically a fat archer for the rest of the game. So you can also, you still have all your mana, dang it, so you can exhaust that and disarm it repeatedly. And this is gonna die. Ooh, this is looking really bad. This is looking really, really bad.
I mean, it's, yeah. I kind of assumed if we were playing with proper decks, you would be smacking me into the ground.
Actually, these are quite balanced. What I do to make it even against new players is I always do one ridiculous overextension that I kind of have to make up for the rest of the game. So it's like I try to play normal, except for one like very aggressive move, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But these are pretty balanced. So I'm going to use all my mana, kill both those. I am now a fat archer on Carthul, and it is your turn. And I am sad that my Wyvern is going to die, or my Crag Behemoth is going to get exhausted. Actually, you have to deal something with this. If I were to attack Tristan right now, I would kill him. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, but that doesn't ruin my game, does it, that much?
Probably not. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's just one of those things, like, Tristan is good. The archer is pretty good as well. Yeah, I think at this point...
Fair point.
I am happy just spending the Thunderclap to exhaust the Behemoth.
Okay.
Yep. And then Swordsman eats that.
Alright, let's see, so that's exhausted, and this feels like such a waste to use my Troll Doctor to heal that for 1, so I'm just gonna skip with that. And this is where you have a lot of advantage now, because now you can debuff this with the disarm and attack it, and I can't debuff it because I'm exhausted.
Yep, which sounds like a good plan to me. So I will arrest it and then.
So we use the white side for buffs, black side for debuffs. So I'm going to make it black. I'm going to say disarmed.
+1 power.
Yep.
And then.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I guess it's your turn. You're skipping.
I can't do anything else. So yeah, you just did 6. You can move that in. Yeah. So that was a good series of plays. I'll click end round. Those didn't get removed. Okay, so nice thing is, since you have that battle suit, you regened your last point of damage, so now I can't one-shot it anymore. I'm just going to be able to take you down to 1, and the problem for me now is if this dies, you win by virtue of having this, basically, unless for some reason you went off to the side and I was still in the mid, because these can't actually deal damage to it. They only deal 1 physical damage, and the armor reduces it, so I'm kind of ruined. Oh, that has 1 less mana on it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And your turn.
Yeah, I mean, how much health has this got? Another 4. So I guess we just start hitting it if we can. I guess we just disarm it again. Lose another mana. And then I get another action. So yeah, let's lightning bolt him.
I mean, this is literally, this is GG. So I'll deal 5 to that. You can just retaliate.
I thought he was disarmed.
Oh, you did do that.
I disarmed him.
Well, you disarmed him last round. Did you do it this round?
Oh no, I disarmed him. Yeah, sorry, I forgot the disarming doesn't give me an action point. It doesn't exhaust Tristan. So I'm disarming him. It's my action.
Oh, okay.
I'm not dealing the 2 damage. Yeah.
Okay. So he's disarmed.
But not damaged.
You're at 1 mana. Okay, I'm going to move Carthul up there. It is now your turn.
Yeah, so I'll give him +1 power again.
Yep. And I'm going to move him right there.
That is frustrating. Yeah. So I should have exhausted him first. Maybe. I can't charge Tristan and attack. I'm not within 2 range. Okay, I guess Tristan will take the middle square.
Okay. And I'm tapped out, so you get to do the rest of your actions.
Yeah, let's send the Troll Doctor 2 damage.
That's not charging, so...
Oh, it's not, is it? I'll just move him there. Yeah. That's fine.
Yep, that's fine.
This is within 2 range as well, so I can't do anything there, so I will just move up. And move up. Yeah.
This is an interesting in-game scenario. I'll say that much. Alright. Yeah, so he's no longer disarmed. I'm just going to whack him.
Oh, yeah. That's a bit silly. Oh, well.
Don't worry. I can't win, so unless you do something really ridiculous.
Well, unless I fail to kill the behemoth that I need to kill, but...
No, you only have to do that. You just need to prevent me from not being in the middle at the end of the 7th round.
Yeah, but you've got 2 turns to smack me for 6 damage. Or am I reading the situation wrong?
I'll take enough damage from retaliation that I don't even... Yeah.
Oh, because the first attack will deal you 4 damage back.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Gonna be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, I will deal him 2 damage though.
Okay, so that gets ticked down.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, I'm going to deal 1 damage to the pikeman.
Mm-hmm.
Your turn. That's ranged, by the way.
Yeah, this is ranged as well. Range units don't retaliate.
Oh, actually, I'm gonna take that back. I'm dealing the 1 damage to that.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
That'll give me a very slight chance of doing something.
I'll hit the Witch Doctor.
Okay. And then I'm gonna attack and kill that. Yeah. Ranged attack.
Probably shouldn't have moved it so close. Let's move 2 up here and then buff him with 1 power, I think.
Yeah, he has the +1 power on him still. It's your turn.
Do I kill the... I can't kill the Behemoth. I don't want to take 6 damage in return.
You could disarm him, hit him, or you could even just skip and go first and then... I don't know.
Yeah, or just remove Carthel from the board. I'm going to remove Carthel from the board, I think.
Okay, so that is a melee attack, so it's going to move you off the mid.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. This is 6th round. I'm going to... Actually, no, I can't do that. I got to do this. I got to just move there.
Because you win if you have
your turn.
End of round 7. I'm definitely disarming him now.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. You'll go.
And deal 1 damage to that.
Sure. Give the pikeman +1 power. What's happening there?
Oh.
It's already done.
Oh, it's there. Okay, gotcha.
And then
I'm tapped out.
Attack the guy for should be 6.
He's dead. So who's doing the second attack? I assume Tristan. Then he'll move. Okay.
I mean, I shouldn't have attacked Carthel. I shouldn't have moved off the middle. Because if I hadn't been able to kill him, then it would have been silly.
So last round, just for kicks, I will deal 2 more damage. And then,
okay.
Attack and kill that.
Yeah.
And that was game.
Yeah. Okay. Are you still there? Have you gone? Sorry, I can't hear you if you're talking.
Oh, no. I'm just letting you process or
that's all right.
How you wanna break the news to me that this game is trash. Whatever.
I think you know it's not trash. It's quite a good game. I mean, look, but by using cards, you have essentially condensed a lot of the problems with wargaming down into a much more accessible feature, right? A lot of people are put off by wargames at 2 levels. The first one, of course, being painting, and the second one, of course, being the rules text being in a book that you have to lug around with you and costs 50 quid or whatever. By avoiding that, you actually have, a lot more flexibility in terms of the abilities you put on the table, the cost, and the natural extension of that is that more people will want to play it, except the fact that a lot of people who like wargaming quite enjoy painting and, all of that stuff, but there's a fairly decent category that don't.
It's, I mean, this game's been called a streamlined miniatures game, like you said. And for me, what's interesting is I didn't even know I liked wargaming until I made this game. Mm-hmm. I'm a card gamer. I play Magic. I play Flesh and Blood. Mm-hmm. I never played Warhammer. I wasn't even trying to make a simple Warhammer. I just made a game that I thought was cool. And then it ended up being a war game, and it was like, oh, this is why I never played war games. Because, I don't like the painting. I don't like lugging around boxes of plastic toys. I just don't care.
I mean, because the most obvious comparison to this game, I mean, there's 2 or 3. It's obviously, you've got Shadespire, which is naturally a miniatures game where you build a deck of cards and you use that to set your objectives and play hero abilities. You've got Super Fantasy Brawl, which came out last year. And that has basically you draft heroes, and then you play with the heroes you drafted, and you get set decks based on the heroes. But those have issues in terms of, the amount of flexibility that you have in terms of Shadespire stuff. Once you have your army, you have certain cards you can put in. And Super Fantasy Brawl, because you're drafting heroes and decks together, you're not really customizing.
Right.
But the setup is good. Like, it's a good setup because there's 15 heroes and you draft. You draft 5 of them, so it's not like you're super invested. Whereas, I mean, the ability to bring 200 gold worth of cards and pick 80 is probably quite good. You know, for people who are big-brained enough that, you know, they can do that. For myself, it's not really, like, I definitely enjoyed playing. I'm not sure if it's the sort of thing I would ever feel like I have enough time to get into, if that makes sense. Because I can min-max card games because I can write. I guess I could take notes. I could write everything down. You know, I'd write my ideal list versus orcs and my ideal list versus goblins or something. But for me, actually, the drafting phase would put me off more than bring me in, if that makes sense. It's almost like there's that layer of complexity that I don't want to put into every single game. How do I explain it? It's like in Flesh and Blood, when I build a deck, I don't build a 30-card deck and then add in 30 different cards from my sideboard. I build a really good 57, 55 card deck, and then I change the tiniest part of it. And the idea of like a draft phase seems interesting, but then if I pick a card and my opponent picks a counter, I'm going to be tired before I actually even start playing the game, if that makes sense.
You know, you might warm up to it. A lot of players, I don't want to say a lot, actually that's not true at all, because a lot of players love the drafting aspect of this game.
No, I'm sure.
Some people even like the drafting aspect more than playing it. They find it so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it appeals to a certain, you know, it appeals to people.
But it is there's a reason we don't have new players draft initially. It is something that you do it once you're comfortable doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pretty much everyone though is warmed up to it. Like there were a few players who were like expressing similar sentiments, and then as time went on, they're like, oh, actually, this is pretty cool. And part of it's that the game doesn't have hard counters, so
that's important.
If you lose in draft, it's because you're just like way below the skill level of the other player, not because I played X and they played the anti-X card, and well, stupid me, you know.
No, that obviously you can't have a silver bullet in a game like where you're actively drafting counters to opponents' decks, because then it's just like, okay, well, it doesn't work. So yeah, it's good to hear you say that. But I mean, I do think it is the sort of thing that you could really get to enjoy. But I think you have to invest a lot of time to get that good at drafting. You know, which is why obviously you have a beginner's list. It might be worth, I don't know if you thought about this, but basically having a no draft mode of the game for new players. Not without set lists, but like, I don't know how you do it. You make the game, not me, but not set armies in set places like these default lists, though it does seem like you've got quite a lot of them. So that might...
I mean, one way you can do is you can just flip your deck over, shuffle it, and then just randomly draw out 80 cards, and then have like you'd be allowed like 4 repositionings. If you have your archer on the first round. I mean, we've done that before. That's a very fast way to start playing.
Yeah,
it doesn't require those lists, and it's the same game basically.
Yeah, I kind of just meant like that to me is the way, because you don't want... I guess if you're playing this as a board game, you could just take these default army lists and just play like 100 games with different positions and stuff like that. And that's probably the best way to do it. But
the thing with drafting is honestly, it adds. It might be a little. You might be looking at some of the cons right now for you, but I'll try to sell you on some of the positives compared to Magic or Flesh and Blood.
I 100%. I 100% actually see the positives. Like I genuinely do. Like strategic decisions in response to your opponent's strategic decisions. You know, picking cards that are going to help you versus their strategy.
Well, here's an experiential pro. Forget strategy. An experiential pro is that each game in this, even if you're playing the same 2 kingdoms over and over again, have way more variety and feel of what happens than your typical game of 2 Magic decks against one another, which eventually it feels extremely repetitive. Like I've played this list of these lists of like 70 times, and every game's different, and that's without draft. You add in a draft and it's just the replayability goes through the roof. That's kind of an advantage, I think, of this over something like Magic, which eventually can, and I'm not going to speak about Flesh and Blood because I haven't played it enough, honestly, but Magic can start to feel a bit on rails. It's like, I'm playing this Dredge deck, you're playing that Tron deck. I know the matchup. I know every game is going to kind of go the same way, and there's not, like, if I want a new game with you, I have to actually pick a new deck. It's just that simple.
No, and that is true. I would say that from my own experience, a lot of card gamers like that predictability. They like learning their matchups very, very well. This is me. Like, I like learning my matchups very, very well. I like going into a game understanding if I'm the aggressor, the defender, am I advantaged, disadvantaged. Getting those small opportunities to beat a deck that I wasn't supposed to beat, or lose, like, crush a deck I was supposed to win, against even harder, or like, for me, that optimization generates a lot of enjoyment. So it doesn't matter if the games aren't always the same, but equally, I'm sure there are a lot of people who would enjoy, because ultimately there are a lot of people who like high skill ceiling games where player skill wins every time, where things are always responsive, reactive. You have a lot more decision points, and you have a lot more options. And like, I can easily see this game appealing to that crowd. The counteract of that, of course, is that there is a reason that Magic and Flesh and Blood and things like that are just more widely popular, which is because they don't have the same mental investment to just sit down and play, which is interesting.
Well, we've talked about this before. I don't agree that Flesh and Blood or Magic are comparable. I think Flesh and Blood is almost headache inducing, honestly, in terms of the amount of min-maxing involved. I would not, like, yeah, it's a card game, but to me, Flesh and Blood is more in the same category of Legacy's Allure, and Magic is its like own.
It's interesting because
that's my opinion.
Obviously, I come from playing the Legend of the Five Rings card game, which it's more like a Euro game. You get a certain number of resources every turn. There's loads of different triggers that happen automatically. There's different win conditions, and going from that to Flesh and Blood is just like such a step down in terms of decision points that it's just kind of relaxing, really, to be honest. So, like, I get what you're saying. I definitely think Magic is closer to Hearthstone these days than it is to Flesh and Blood. But I think you can learn the plays and the lines in Flesh and Blood very, very easily. Whereas, much like chess, I think this game would always reward you taking a minute to look at the board state, evaluate. The good thing is that there's a set number of available options to both you and your opponent, which are made very clear by the cards. So, just like in chess, but even better in chess because it's actually written on the cards what they do. And certain options are shut down by things like health and things like that. You can get a lot of very interesting movement and stuff like that out of this game. I think it's great. Like, I genuinely do. Like, when I come out and say I'm not really sure about the drafting for me, I'm literally saying myself, I just like to, have a strategy and play with it, and optimize that strategy over
Which,
and over
again. You do that in this game. That is what we do. We make a kingdom and we say, all right, this is intended to be more aggressive, or this is the main line of play, and then you can have a variation off of that theme. And
exactly.
It is there, but at the end of the day, some people like more games that are more based around tactics, and other people like games that are more based around synergies and combos. And I think that's a key difference between wargaming and card gaming.
For sure.
and that's fine. One isn't better than the other. I'm not even saying one requires more thought than the other. It's just literally a preference, The polar opposite of like this game would be like Yu-Gi-Oh or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like each card has like a book worth of text, and people will pore over cards for hours trying to find every little intricate combo and synergy. Whereas this, it's like, yeah, you can do that, but at the end of the day, if you don't know how to position something properly, like you're gonna lose.
Yeah, and I mean, I've sunk hours into stuff like Final Fantasy Tactics and things like that, where you did set up your team. They all had certain abilities. You positioned them properly so you could attack the right people. It's, it is very mentally rewarding to do that, I think, and to do it well. So yeah, I mean, I hope you enjoyed that run through of the game. As you can tell, I found it both, mentally stimulating and quite interesting based on my comments during and after the game. I really feel like this is actually quite a fun game with a lot to offer people in terms of strategy and in terms of like planning your moves and things like that, but in a more accessible format. Because I mean, I used to like Mordheim. I've played a bit of Shadespire, but the thing I fall on is the miniatures side of things. I don't want to be stuck playing 5 miniatures. I want to be able to customize my army whenever I want. I can't paint very well, so that's out of it. I just want good art. And the fact that you can just smack cards down on a board and that will count as your characters, and the fact that they have all the rules text on the back, so you don't have to have a codex or another rules text to learn what's going on and things like that, makes it quite interesting. So there's a good bit of back and forth gameplay here, and I've obviously only seen 2 of the factions, and I think there's already like 10, so I think there's a lot of depth as well that you can get in a game like this by adding people with different movement, different abilities, to create a real back and forth gameplay feel and style of things. So yeah, I hope you like this video. I am always interested in reviewing new games. In the past, I've had designers reach out to me saying, hey, will you take a look at my game? The answer is usually yes. I find new card games like a fascinating topic, especially because one of the things that very much interests me, and you can look for this next week or so if you're still listening, I'll be doing an article about Tales of Aria design. I am just fascinated by design of card games. I've play tested multiple we'll say big budget card games from the likes of FFG and things like that, and I am actively involved in designing other smaller games and continuation projects and fan projects and things like that. And design decisions I think are the most fascinating decisions you get in these games. Yeah, if you have a game you want me to look at, I'll take a look. I don't mind. I'll do a video like this. We'll talk about the game, and I'll put that video up on YouTube, and we can have a look and see what other people think as well. Anyway, thanks all for listening. If you've made it this far, then I really, really appreciate you. I imagine you've already subscribed to my channel if you can listen to me talk for an hour and a half. If you haven't, of course, this is a good sign that you probably should. So this is your little reminder to hit that subscribe and that notification bell to get more of this, because this is what I'm doing. I've started to flesh out, since I've started to do videos more regularly, my Ko-fi page. So Ko-fi is ko-fi.com. It is very, very similar to Patreon. The only benefit, of course, is that it is based in the UK, which means I do not pay US taxes on the revenue coming in, and I also don't pay commission on donations or memberships. So if you are liking what I'm doing with this channel, you would like to help support me do more, pay for animators or graphic designers, pay for a better camera for recording games in person, all that sort of stuff that money is quite useful for, or just help me buy cards, because cards are expensive. Like I bought many card games in the past 2 months, and obviously I love doing reviews of them, but I do have to flip some of those cards to pay for them. I would love to be in a situation where I could just build up a collection of those games to show off and show people without having to say, for example, I opened a load of boxes of Digimon and I sold the secret rares to pay for the Digimon collection, and then built 2 cheap decks out of what I had, so I could experience the game without actually breaking the bank. And obviously if I get plenty of donations, then I can just experiment with new games like without worrying about them. And I mean, I see a new card game every day I'd love to support on Kickstarter or something like that and just take a look at. But there are realistic constraints involving money and things like that, that as as someone who doesn't have a primary job involving this and doesn't generate revenue doing this right now, I just have to take into consideration. So that's why you see me doing a lot of flesh and blood content, just because my primary game, so I'm invested in it monetarily anyway, just by having a lot of it. And it, I try and out new games as and when it makes sense, and as and when I think it's worth the investment, and I'll do the good thing where I buy a load of it, sell off anything that's really worth a lot, make 2 decks, play those 2 decks, get a good understanding of the game, play it a bit more. I have a box full of like 2-player card games that I basically take out every now and then. I have my Netrunner, my Legend of the Five Rings, Digimon, Ashes Reborn. I have Genesis in there now. I guess I'll add MetaZoo in there as well. I have Arkham Horror. I have just a massive box of all of these card games, which I treat very much like board games. So I have 2 decks, 3 decks in there. I even have my Magic Commander decks doing the same, and I just take them out. But the dream, of course, is to be able to not sell off the good stuff as well and just keep playing with it. Anyway, that's a tangent aside. I hope you liked this video. I hope you found Legacies of Allure really interesting. Obviously, I've included links to the Discord, this website, in the description of the video. If you're interested in trying to play this game, you can see there's a TTS mod. Get involved, get on there.